How's everything going, gang? Good. What you got for me?
Coach, I've been requested to ask the hardest question up front here. How'd your high school team do this week?
Well, you know what? The storybook run didn't have a storybook ending, but it was a really cool experience. There's two divisions of hockey in Minnesota, A and AA. And the AA schools, two of the Goliaths in AA faced off. Lots of glamour, not a lot of charm. All the charm was in the A division this year, and my school had a lot to do. It was kind of a mini Hoosier story, and in the A level. And years ago, when the iron mines were booming in northern Minnesota, like the things were vibrant and the schools were big and the communities were young and they had lots of large families. And in our school, we only had one class then. And our school, Greenway, contended every year and went to the state tournament quite often. Well, you get into the 80s and with the recession in the 80s and they closed the iron mines down and a lot of them, most of them closed down and they started to buy Japanese steel here. And anyway, the young people had to move out. There wasn't any work there, and the community got old. And the numbers in the schools got down, and our school got down. The enrollment got down to a point where, for athletically, they were looking at even consolidating with the neighbor school, which was Grand Rapids. That's Don Lucia's old school, and consolidating Greenway and Grand Rapids. So, like everybody knows, great high school rivalries, collegiate rivalries. Like this, literally would have been like, let's have CC, let's have Colorado College in Denver. Let's have them merge for next year. I mean, like that boat just wouldn't have floated. And they had, but it was being contemplated. And anyway, make a long story short, our school now plays at the A level, and they had struggled. The program, like I said, was on life support. And then this group of kids came along and resurrected the program, and it was my school. It has been one of the darlings of high school hockey. It is one. We had one of the greatest players ever played in the state. A little guy named Mike Antonovich was terrific, the greatest Raider of them all, and everybody knows and remembers Mike Antonovich. And but things went, like I said, started to go south. These kids resurrected the program, and it was really cool. It's a great example of how how sports can bring, captivate a state and bring communities together and draw interest. This year there was more interest. There was more interest in the A division because of the charm and this thing with Greenway, this little mini Hoosier story, and had a lot of little subplots and whatnot. And it was just kind of cool how it all came together. And these young kids on this team, it's kind of funny. Here we are, it's 2019, and these kids, they have no idea what things were like back in the glory days in the 60s and the 70s and 80s. And I went to this tournament, and I'm telling you, it was like an all-class reunion. It was all old people like myself from the 50s, the 60s, the 70s, and 80s, reliving the glory days. I don't know one kid on the team personally, but I know their parents, I know their aunts, I know their uncles, I know their grandfathers, and everybody got together and came down, and it was a really, really cool experience. The media, the radio stations, everybody was talking about them, and they made their way through. They won the first two games, beat two really good teams in the first two games, won in overtime, scored with 2 minutes left, and then scored in overtime and got to the championship game. And they played a real good team from St. Cloud. Actually, it was Dan Bailey's high school team that they played in the final, and they were real good. And the game didn't go our way. But what a fantastic time! What a fantastic experience! Again, kind of just reinforces. I'm always around sports. We're always around sports, and it's always so intense and crazy, and you're nervous. And it was kind of cool for me just to be able to be at something like that and just look around and see the interaction and just see the phenomenon of what it was take place. Really, really cool. Like I said, the storybook run didn't have a storybook ending, but it was really cool nonetheless. I've been getting taking a little bit of grief from Dan Bailey lately, but that's okay. You guys know I have thick skin. We're going to move on and talk about the Niagara series a little later. Dan Bailey is going to be questionable for the Friday game. He may be a healthy scratch. But other than that, great experience. Thanks for asking. And what an experience that was for me to be able to go to Minnesota and experience that and watch the state tournament. Want to also, got to give the devil their due. The CC Tigers, the evil empire to the south. I mean, it wasn't a couple years ago. They would have had a hard time winning an inter-squad game. And now Mike Havlin's down there. And not only does he have the Pikes Peak trophy, he's got the gold pan. And, good for those guys. Good things happen to good people. And it's these rivalries, all this, it's not a rivalry if the same team wins all the time. And, obviously, I wish the Pikes Peak Trophy was still here in the Cadet Ice Arena, but now we have to go back and earn it back. But for them to beat the number 8 team in the country, the Denver Pioneers, twice, and bring that gold pan back to Colorado Springs, tremendous achievement, accomplishment, and it speaks. It speaks volumes about what those guys have been able to do. Good people. They've, like I said, worked, built, taken their lumps. And tell you what about Javi. He's a good guy, but he's a good coach. He don't get out-coached very often, and there had to have been some good coaching going on this weekend along with good play, because we saw that Denver team up close and personal early in the year, and they fed us pretty good. And for them to win those games and win the gold pan, tremendous accomplishment. My hat's off to them, and I wish them the best of luck in the playoffs when they go to Western Michigan. Speaking of the playoffs, we got men's hoops, got San Jose, and we're the high seed in that one. We're not the low seed in that one. And Dave and his troops have done a great job. They took a little bit of a lump, I saw at Boise, but that maybe be a good wake-up call for the boys going down to Las Vegas for the Mountain West Conference tournament. And then, of course, your Falcon hockey team, we drew the Niagara Purple Eagles. If you've never seen a purple eagle before, come to the Cadet Ice Arena on Friday and Saturday, and there's going to be 20 of them out there flying around our ice rink. It's an interesting matchup. We've got the Air Force Falcons was the worst offensive team in the league, but we were the best defensive team in the league. The Niagara Purple Eagles, they weren't the worst defensive team in the league. They were only the second worst defensive team in the league. They weren't the best offensive team in the league, but they were the second best offensive team in the league. So it's going to be an interesting matchup. Obviously, we've got to try to keep their scoring down, because we don't score a lot. And conversely for them, they know we don't score a lot, so they're going to be out and trying to push and try to get 3, 4, 5 goals and get out of our range. So it's kind of it's an interesting matchup. We played them early in the year on Friday. It was a good game for a while, and then it got away from us, and I think it ended up being 4 or 5 to 1. They ended up beating us at home on the Friday night. Saturday we came back, and with a traditional, kind of this year's traditional type win, we won 2 to 1 on the second night. So, these matchups, hey, what I say last week, I go there like anything could happen. Niagara and Canisius go 3 games, and we're all 3 in overtime? No, 2 were in overtime. First 2 were in overtime, game 3 wasn't. Army goes right into Mercyhurst, a team that had a lot of talent. Army's got all their guys back. They had some injuries, similar story to what we had last year. They go right into Erie and sweep Mercyhurst on their own ice. And then the other one, Holy Cross, played at Robert Morris. Robert Morris wins 2 1-goal games. So this is the way it's going to be. These games are, if you don't like seeing good games, don't come to the Cadet Ice Arena this weekend, because trust me, they're going to be nail biters. And if they're not, it's going to be, there's something weird is going to have to happen.
Coach, you kind of outlined the strength versus strength, offense versus defense, but that Friday night game, the 5 to 0 or 5 to 1 game, what the hell happened to Billy, or is that just a case of hockey being hockey?
You know what? I can't remember. Like I've got Partzheimer's disease. I am I am getting up there where you like, and I can play that card right now, and nobody can say, oh, I'm not, no. Honest to God, I can't remember back that far. All I remember is the game did get away from us, and I don't remember how, if it was goalie pulls or what. It really doesn't matter. I think that was our second series of the year. I remember going to Canisius, and I know that because my nephew Matt played at Canisius, and then that was his last games. And then we came back here and played Niagara. I can tell you the one thing I did remember, they played at pace, like they were fast. And I remember watching, like, the second half of that first game, I'm going like, oh, these guys get after it, and they move, and they play fast. And, obviously, they've got some skill. They've got one of their freshmen has forwards has 20 goals, and like they've been able to. It's proven that they know how to light the lamp. But again, I think that's the matchup. They're going to come in, and are we going to be able to keep them off the board? Are we going to be able to win a 2-1 game, maybe a 3-2 game? And if they're able to score 4 or 5, like obviously that's going to put a lot of pressure on us.
How big of an advantage is getting the home ice for this first series?
I don't know. We haven't been great at home. It's not a bad thing to play at home, but I don't know if it's a great thing. Sometimes you have teams and sometimes it's better off to get out of here and get on the road and get away from the pressures of playing at home, because there are pressures of playing at home. You obviously don't want your season to end on your home ice, and you don't want to disappoint your fan base. But then again, we can't also not take advantage and not be excited about somebody having to come in and play 2 and possibly 3 games against us at 7,000 feet too. So it's just hard to say. You know what? All I can say with all of this is you look at my old high school team, Greenway, and they struggled much during the season. And the 2 of the teams that they beat in the state tournament, they had lost to during the regular season. And you look at CC now, finishing Denver off at the end of the year. And you look at us, and we finished strong. All 3 of those teams were playing their best hockey at the right time of year. And we are playing good hockey right now. Now, is our best hockey going to be good enough? That's what we're going to find out this weekend.
To bring up CC again, they've got Western Michigan. You faced them this year. Scouting report on them?
Yeah, Western was like when we played them. Billy kept us in it early. Like they were so fast. Their first 2 lines had dynamic speed. But you know what? Denver had, I thought, dynamic speed as well when we played them. And they gave us trouble. Billy kept us in there, and it was 2-1, and we had a goalie pull, and they scored 2 empty net goals to beat us 4-1. But it could have easily been early in that game. They could have been out ahead of us 4-0. CC's been able to do a good job. Again, Mike Havlin knows what he's doing as a coach, and the teams that they play against in that league, they play against a lot of firepower, and so they know they've got tactics on how to slow people down and how to keep games close, and that's what they're going to have to do at Western Michigan. The old adage I've used when we play in the NCAA tournament, we play against ranked teams, you're not going to win many games in the first period, but you can lose them. And, that's the big thing. CC going into Western Michigan, they're not going to win those games in the first period. They just have to make sure they don't lose them. And, they stay in those games and they keep them close. And going into the third period of those games, you want to be either even or ahead, because then the pressure starts to rotate, onto the home team, the favorites. And I'm sure that'll be a big part of CC's plan will be to go in and just play a terrific road series. And they're built for that. I like their chances.
What's this week look like for you guys?
We're going to practice hard Monday and Tuesday. And then we're going to take a log off the fire. We're going to take Wednesday off. We're going to have a short one on Thursday and then go Friday. But we're going to go hard Monday and Tuesday. We chose to do that. Hey, we are fully preparing to play 3 games this weekend. And we don't want to use a quarter of a tank of gas or a third of a tank of gas practicing. We want to make sure that all the gas is in the tank for the 3 games potentially.